Well, last week at the Australian of the Year Awards, the announcement of the South Australian of the Year, the Senior South Australian of the Year, and the South Australian Local Hero were all made. And we were very pleased to be down there. 891 is, of course, a partner with these events. And I was very moved by one of the speakers. Each person was able to give a speech if they had won one of the major categories. And Claire Foord is the founder of Still Aware. Claire got up and gave a speech, and I think there was a dry eye left in the house. People were very moved by Claire's speech because Claire told about her experience as a first-time mother and the fact that she lost her child. And Claire, it was a very moving moment. I don't think you expected to win, did you? You got up there and you were quite taken aback. I remember watching you and thinking, this lady doesn't know that she's won. Yeah,
yeah, well, thanks, Ian. Yeah, I was a little taken aback. It was amazing validation for what Still Aware are trying to achieve and what we're doing for the face of stillbirth. But I think I was really blown away because it is such a previously very silent subject, and I really aim to create a conversation and remove that taboo from it. So I was very shocked, but also extremely pleased. But at the same time, it was a bittersweet win
because you were thinking about why you were there.
Yeah.
Well, just tell the listeners what actually happened, because it must be it's an awful thing to lose a pregnancy. I know many people go through miscarriage, but this was different, wasn't it?
It is. Look, there's multiple times that you can lose a child, and after birth, early on in miscarriage, and then there's stillbirth. And stillbirth is something that I didn't realise was so prevalent in this day and age, and unfortunately is something that happens every 4 hours in Australia. I did not know this, and I did not know that my child would be stillborn. I was in my 40th week of pregnancy, and I had grown to know my little girl, Alfie, so incredibly well. She was a little mover and a shaker in there and rolled around, and, I know you do get to know your baby so very well. And I went into the hospital after not being sure whether my baby was arriving or whether something was wrong, just feeling a little strange, but also very excited that my baby was about to arrive and in labour.
And it was a normal labour, it was a normal pregnancy. So no one had any idea. And,
no.
And also, this is your first child, isn't it?
First child. And there was nothing wrong with her. And, we went in with a very, very healthy baby, and her movements had started to slow. And I didn't know that was a warning sign for a baby in distress, and no one had told me that. However, I do know that now, that if a baby does slow down in their movements or has increased fetal movement, that is a reason for concern.
Well, I don't know that, and I can remember my wife and I going through a pregnancy, and I don't remember anyone saying, "Look, by the way, if there's a slowing of movement or an increase in movement, let us know." I mean, so you want people to be aware of that, and is that only in the last week or so of the pregnancy, or at any stage?
It's at any stage. If there's any reason for concern, look. In the third trimester, so past 28 weeks, you really get a very regularity of movements with your child. They're strong, they're healthy, and all they're doing is building bulk. So their movements shouldn't change. They will remain the same. They will have a very predictable pattern. And you'll get to know your child, their awake cycles, their sleep cycles, just like you would after they're born. And if anything changes in that is reason for concern.
So looking back, you felt there was a change because you suddenly must have thought just in the last day or so of the pregnancy, was it?
Look, I was actually in a prolonged labour, and her movements had slowed over the course of about a week, but I didn't realise that was reason for concern. And slowly but surely, it got slower and slower and slower.
Oh, gosh.
And then there was an increased amount of erratic movement the night before I was to go into hospital and, have an ultrasound. And whilst the midwife looked at me, she was completely white in the face, and she just said, "I'm really sorry, there's no heartbeat." And there is no way to describe how I felt. It was a completely incomprehensible, and still is, and it's a very emotional moment, and I had to deal with the fact that my daughter was going to be born without breath. And not only was I going to go into that delivery suite and deliver my beautiful little angel completely silently, but also have to plan her funeral on that same day. So it was horrific. She was perfect. She had beautiful rose-coloured lips, little button nose, chubby little cheeks, a big head of curly hair, and was absolutely perfect. And I was also given a form to sign, do you want an autopsy? So there's all these things that you had to deal with right then, right there, without, no one can prepare you for this. And my husband and I looked at each other and thought, okay, clearly this doesn't happen very often. Somebody would have told us that there were warning signs for something like this. And doctors and midwives and people said, oh, you're very unlucky. It's very rare. And then on reading, I found out that, hang on a second, it really isn't. There's over 2,000 babies a year that are born still. Somebody should be talking about this. And so it's for Alfie and the 6 babies every day that are still born in Australia that we will speak out and speak out forever until those statistics change.
And you've got a program now where you can measure the kicks, and it's like a small card with a place you can make notation on it.
Exactly.
Now you would like these to be given out
to everyone.
So if someone's listening to this and they want to get hold of one of those little cards, it's a bit like a scorecard, isn't it? Like a dance card or whatever at a dance, isn't it? You measure how many. How vigorously your baby's dancing inside. Yeah.
Exactly, and the regularity of those dancing feet.
Yeah.
And it should remain the same. If you are sitting down at breakfast time and that's when your baby is most active, that's usually when your baby will be most active every day. And so you can take note of, let's say, 10 movements, 12 movements, 8 movements, whatever is suitable for you and your baby. Whatever you do should remain the regularity. Nothing should change. That should remain consistent. And any cause for concern is when that is a decrease or a sudden increase in movement. And then you should get in touch with your doctor. And I'm talking about ladies who are pregnant and expecting their children.
I'm talking to Claire Foord, the founder of stillaware.org, who was named as South Australia's local hero for her work in raising awareness around stillbirth. But more importantly, you don't want to raise awareness about stillbirth. You want to save babies' lives.
Correct.
Now, do you now know that if you'd been aware of this, would they have said, look, let's get you in, have a cesarean, get this baby out because there's something happening and we need to be aware of it? Do you have any idea now what happened and why the kicking slowed down and then stopped?
There was nothing wrong with her. She just was ready to be born. Every body, every baby, and every pregnancy is different. There is no such thing as a textbook pregnancy. And I kept being told, you've got textbook pregnancy, everything's perfect. Right. There was nothing wrong with my child. The only sign that she needed to come out was her telling me through her movement and her decreased movement that she was in distress and that she needed to be born. Had I known that that was a reason for concern, yes, Alfie would be with us today and she would be giggling and laughing and running around this studio probably, and we wouldn't be having this conversation because somebody would have already spoken out about stillbirth and how we can potentially reduce it. Counting the Kicks has proven to reduce stillbirth in other countries, and that's what we aim to achieve.
I mean, I can tell you're an incredibly intelligent, vivacious woman, and I know that you wouldn't take something like this without going into the investigations
no
of
way.
it. So you've actually gone through, looked at it all. It makes you then ask the question, why hasn't someone done this before? I mean, do other people, when this has happened, they get told, oh, well, you should have counted the kicks, or, we now know that if you were counting the kicks, it was there. Have you spoken to other mothers who have said they didn't talk much about it and I was just told to go away and have another baby or something? That's often what they say, isn't it? Just move on.
It's a very... dependent on the scenario, dependent on the time. I've spoken to people whose babies were born 40 years ago and they still struggle to speak about it. So, yes, I do ask, why didn't somebody talk about this earlier? Why didn't this come out, 30 years ago when SIDS was starting to be spoken about? And I wish that it had. However, it hasn't, and I'm not.
But you're saying it is spoken about overseas. So in other words, if you're in the UK or somewhere else, there would be someone saying, "Now listen for your baby's kicks. It's important you keep track of that. And here's a little scorecard. Write down the kicking movements because it is an issue that you've got to be aware of. You don't want to have a stillborn baby." They actually say that, do they?
Yeah, they say get to know your baby, spend time with your baby every day, and that's what we're trying to say. Is that counting the kicks and we've got plenty of information on our website, which is stillaware.org, and you can go on there and download these kick charts, and you can read about why this is so important, and how you can get to know your baby prior to their birth and get to know their regular movement patterns, because they don't change. Yes, the level of intensity, how heavily they kick, or potentially how strong their movement is when your baby is so ready to come out and there's not a lot of room for them to roll around, but it doesn't stop. A baby kicks right up until it's born, okay. And if your baby is a slow mover throughout your pregnancy, it will remain so. And that's what you have to. Its consistency is key. And so, yes, in answer to your question or statement, that is what they're saying overseas. In Norway, in the last 20 years, they have reduced preventable stillbirth using this method by 50%. That is enormous, and we should be adopting that here.
So that's what I was saying. Another country has done it, and they've saved babies' lives.
Absolutely.
Look, stick around after the news headlines. We've got a few texts coming in on this, and I'd like you to answer some of those, and also tell us about what's happened since you lost Alfie. Claire, you've got 12 months or more ahead of you now of raising awareness. One of our listeners here says, look, I'm so glad this issue has been recognised, the issue of stillbirth. I feel everything Claire has been through, having delivered 15 years ago a healthy 9-pound daughter stillbirth at 41 weeks with absolutely no warning. The loss and the sadness never goes away. Congratulations on your work. Now, since then, you've had another child, and
we have. Alfie has got a little brother, and interestingly, we welcomed Archibald with open arms and so much joy and elation, but also with a real mix of emotions, because it was very, very sad at the same time.
All right. Look, I can hear someone else on the line there. I don't know what's going on at the moment, but I can hear someone else on the line. We'll have to leave it there, Claire. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you very much indeed. If you want to find out more